Hi everybody. So today I'm going to show you how I do my super special background where you're basically not having to do anything at all in terms of realism. You're not copying anything. You've got a blank canvas and some fruit on it, or you might have a person's head on it, or you might have a still life. But this is my way of filling in a background and making it look really nice. And you've got a choice in that if you had, say, a portrait here, you would probably do my special technique equally all the way around it. But with a still life, it's really nice to actually show a graduation in distance from the back of your still life to the front of your still life. So in that way, you can even be saying this is a surface that it's on top of. So in fact, sometimes I even put a little round bit like that and say, oh, and here is a plate. It's on a plate. So yeah, I'll do that as well then. So the first thing I'll do is look at the carefully chosen background colour that I initially started with. This video is looking very, very blue. In real life, it's much more turquoise, so I don't know how it's going to come up. It's like it's really desaturated. Anyway, either way, I'm going to choose 3 colours that I think would match this colour, but 3 different kind of tones. Excuse me, 3 different tones, and it could be as wild and crazy as you like, or it can be as close to as you like. I have got here a turquoise, a white, a white, and a phthalo green, which I'm going to add some white to. And you'll see how what I'm going to do is basically replicate this, but it's going to be a prettier version, and more importantly, it's going to be oil over this acrylic so that you get a much more beautiful surface and you cover up all your multitude of sins of things that went wrong. So bonus all round. So I've got a clear brush, a nice wide one. We're going to want to get close in, but also we are not going to want to get all fiddly. So I'm using quite a nice wide brush and it's very clean. And I'm putting some terps on it, but then I'm taking some of that terps off. Wants to be really quite opaque, this, because we're going to be trying to cover up all this stuff that went wrong. Let's pretend that I painted this in. That was an onion. And what I'm going to do is actually show you how I would make this travel from a dark to a light in order to make this look as though it is a surface rather than just a background like you get in a school photograph. So I'll start near the top, and I'm going to I really don't really know what these colours are going to look like on top of the colour I've got here, but the idea is that it looks as close to the colour that I've chosen, but I'm going to be kind of hedging my bets. So I've got this turquoise here, and I'm also going to grab some of that white, make a whiter version of it, and also a greener version of it. Put some white in. I don't want it to be too dark. So there we go. I've got 3 different tones of it. Like I say, I'm going to start darker at the top, and it's going to be a case of I'm going to go straight in with that turquoise, actually. Funny how you put it on and then suddenly it looks really light, dark on the canvas. So actually I'm going straight in with this green, so you can see I'm doing kind of squarish brush strokes. You can do anything you like. Yeah, I'm going to put some neat turquoise down. I'm not even going to add the white for now. I think it's going to look really lovely against that lemon as well. So start here. Obviously, it really helps if your fruit is dry, but you can go up to the edge if you don't, if it's wet. Just be careful, that's all. And okay, you can use a smaller brush if you're not comfortable with doing it with one this big, but make sure it's flat-ended again, because it just gives you that definition, much easier to work with. I'm sure you can guess where this is going. Our old friend Flappy Fish. I'm going to start introducing some white into it while I go along. I'm going to get a different brush now so I don't have to clean it. It does use quite a lot of paint doing this, I must admit. Keep having to put more and more onto my palette. What I'll do is turn this video around at some point and do a little video travelling around, then you'll be able to see a lot better. But I hope you'll get the gist of this. And of course, the good thing about doing this when it's dry is that you can take it right up to the edge, go over the edge, and of course, you can also then wipe it off. Not sure I've really finished this lemon. Right, I'm just going to turn the camera around. Hopefully you can see. Can you see? Lots of brush marks. Quite Cezanne-y. Wish you could see what actual colour they are here. They're maybe a nice turquoisey green, but it's just not showing up on the video at all. Anyway, it's a technique that matters. So hopefully you're doing this to yours while I'm yabbering away. Hopefully you found 3 tones that will look nice. Save time by actually just starting to distribute it around like that. Because remember, also going to travel lighter and lighter as you go further down. And also, my brush marks are going to get bigger and bigger. Again, not massively necessary. But it makes a nice job of making distance happen. More turquoise. Now, obviously, you're probably looking at my long twirly whirly jellyfish style things coming off the beetroot here, which I know Tim will be worrying about. So you know what's going to happen. All I'm going to do is paint over it, and then I'll be able to wipe away where they are. So I need to keep an eye on where they are, but it's not a problem to paint over those thin strands. The good thing about this is that you can, where you've done, especially this is really good in portraiture, where you've done a really massive howler, what you can do is just put extra thick paint over the howler and then make it much lighter elsewhere if you want to. So all that will do is make it look as though it's got an interesting surface, and you know, it's just creating some distance. If you do it sort of flat enough, it will be easily disguised. Now remember, I'm going to try and get lighter down the bottom. I'm going to pretend that it's on a sort of turquoisey blue plate. We'll make this the side of the plate, and I'll put some, can you see down there? Put some burnt umber down there in this bit. So it'll look like the side of a table. Right. So what next? I wonder. Yeah, of course, it's going to be flappy fish. Which doesn't have to be. You might like this sort of Cézanne squared off brush marks effect. I guess it depends how you've painted your still life. Does it work? I think it probably almost works with my lemon here, but the further I go down, especially down here, I made much more of a sort of softer brushwork for the beetroot. It's going to look really silly around the edge of that. So could actually leave some of this up at the top, looks rather nice. Or do less fluffy fish there, but really smooth this lot out. I am just going to also pretend that that onion is sitting against the lemon, and remind you that you can just wipe away. Like I say, that will only work if this is dry. If it's not dry, you just have to be a bit more careful. But this is something I tend to do right at the end, and things are generally dry by that point. Dry enough. Because if you think about it, the edges of the objects are usually thinner than, so the edges are thin around here, fatter, more pigment the nearer that you would get your finger, you're going to touch it. That's the big fat stuff that might still be wet that you would catch. But around here, by now, I would expect it to be pretty dry. I didn't even finish the beetroot, so we'll just pretend that was done there. Right, so lovely, dry, clean brush for flappy fish. Got some here. And have my rag ready. Like I say, I quite like it up there, and I want to make sure that I don't get too dark up here and bring it down. So I'm going to start near the bottom where it's lighter, and then I'll clean it as I go further up and do a little bit less blending. So see that? It's very good fun doing this. And I'm going to try and do it in the direction of a plate, if it was a plate. You know, rather than just go up and down like that. Oops, try and have it make some sort of directional sense with the brush strokes. Clean. Get a bit less vigorous with it. So it really depends on how expressive you want it. So up here I've left all those brush strokes. Down here I'll flappy fish it to an inch of its life. So you can see the difference. Now you were asking about, Zeb was asking about shadows, and I'm sure you can see this is why I would do this first before shadows, because the shadows will happen on the surface of what your fruit and veg is sitting on. So there's absolutely no point doing your shadows and then putting this on and it going up to but not over the shadows. It would look very strange. Because what we're doing here is pretty much intimating the surface. So I'm going to prepare the shadow area a little bit. And then we'll be casting shadows over it. I'm going to take you on a little journey again. So, mad, expressive, lots of stuff going on, not blended, but blended. Not blended, getting more blended, very blended. Does look very wrong here, doesn't it? I mean, I know I'm doing it for example's sake, but see if I can get it to... There's quite a thing to try and go from really blended seamlessly into really expressive, you know, like where do you stop? I think probably when I end up doing it with a little bit. Might possibly have to make it dry for a little bit. I'll give it a go with a rag even. So when you dry it, when the painting dries a bit and then you flap your fish, because the paint is more dry, it allows you to be vigorous, but it doesn't move nearly so well. So it kind of, it does a lot of the being subtle on your behalf, because it's too difficult to actually make it move too vigorously. Anyway, hopefully get the idea. There you go. Very strange shape there. Now, I'm going to send this to you because I'm going to allow this to dry before doing the shadows. Maybe I should do one shadow to show. Yeah, I'm going to do one shadow to show you how to do it when you're still doing it wet alla prima style. And I'll do that here because that's the place I'll be most able to get away with it, because it's into a dark area. So let's give that a go. So I'm going to employ the technique of Saint Bob, which you might remember is you've got wet paint. If you want to put wet paint over wet paint and be quite detailed in it, but not big fat strokes. So obviously the one thing you don't want to do is put a big fat smear of shadow underneath, because the one thing a shadow is it's never fat. It's incredibly flat, isn't it? A shadow. It's a dark. It's a lack of light over something, so it literally has no substance to it. So this is why you don't want to be putting on a big fat smear that's actually got texture. So. Try and give that a bit of a better shape. So what I learned from Bob on this was, as long as the paint that's over it is thinner than the paint you're going over, you will be able to make it go over the top. So it's got to be thinner so it glides on. And actually I would probably, seeing as we've got some, use some linseed oil, because that would make it glide on even better. I want a really thin brush, and in fact what I will use is my trusty flat-ended watercolour brush for this, to ensure that it is as thin an application as possible. Right. So I'm absolutely coating it in linseed oil. And I'm going to go into my trusty burnt umber, which I'm mixing with some blue. There you go. Is that going to be dark enough? Right. I'm just going to guess where the light would be and where it would make most sense. Here, you can imagine it would be here. So I've made it very, very linseed oily. hoping I can put it under and it won't drip. Ideally follows the curve of the object. So of course it's not going to follow up to, you know, right up to its edge. It's going to go as though the light's coming down here, dong, it's hitting there, ping. So it doesn't want to be too deep. What I would say is, if you don't know where the shadows are, I certainly don't know where the lemon is. In fact, yes, I do. It went in my rum and coke last night. Just get a lamp and, you know, hit your still life with it, and hopefully it will show you where the shadows are, or the photo you originally took. Have a look at that. If the shadows aren't obvious, whack up the contrast, see what happens. Do you remember when I said you can also squint and see where the shadows would be, as well as where the light would ping? In fact, specifically I said where the light would ping, but also when you screw up your eyes, the opposite happens. You'll see where the darkest dark should come. Yeah, have a look at your photograph, and if you can't see where they would be, yeah, whack up the contrast on your phone using the edit, and it should be hopefully all there for you. Another good reason for taking a photo, because our lovely fruits always die on us by the time we get to doing the shadows, I find. There you go. So I hope that helps. Let's take away a little bit of that so it's not quite so. Yeah, here endeth the lesson. Bye bye.